right now, in terms of opportunity and trends in the climate tech for the region, what excites you most? Not deep tech, but sustainability this time.
So for me, it's very basic. I spent 8 years having an EV, and my EV transition journey was followed globally. I have just put solar panels on my roof. I have 3.5 kilowatts, and I've got 10 kilowatt of batteries. And actually, I've realized that as I'm sit here, I'm making money. My house is making money. And one of the things that you see Pakistan, you see other countries across Southeast Asia are adopting residential solar like nothing yet. It's very simple. It's taking production, taking consumption away from centralized into decentralized systems. And that may not seem sexy, but actually it's one of the most exciting things right now. I think it's happening across the region.
Thank you. Dmitry?
Yeah, from my side, I would want to share, there is I see a trend for decarbonizing products, so supply chain. So instead of going on corporate level decarbonization, it's a product level. So you could see this going into commodity space, into products, and especially I think this is a great opportunity for Asia, where most of the supply chains are, and especially in Singapore, which is on the trading flows. So I think it's uniquely positioned in taking one of the leading roles here.
Thank you. And you, Saemin?
Gotcha. I mean, for me, it's really interesting these days because the whole transition on the renewable side, nuclear is getting a whole new spotlight, specifically because it's kind of taking off its scarlet letter. It's getting a lot more viewpoints on what it could do when you actually mesh it with data centers and AI. So all these things in relation to small modular reactors, being able to actually utilize the uranium-235 in terms of how you actually utilize high assay, low enrichment uranium to actually to further proliferate renewable energy seems to be a really, really important factor these days.
So decentralized energy, supply chain, and nuclear, right? Moving maybe the conversation a bit more towards also like the difficult part and your strategies to make it successful, right? One for you, Sophia. Let's talk about scaling up climate tech in APAC, right? We know it's tough. I spoke about a few challenges typical to this region. What do you think would help fast track this transition, or respectively, what's holding it back, right? And maybe you can talk about an example how BP Venture has partnered with a climate tech company from the region to help this growth.
I think all of us in here have access to cash to be able to help scale companies. We have $100 million a year that we're able to spend on helping to scale companies up, but it's not just money. You need a lot of cooperation. And so young companies need cooperation with corporates, with other parts of the value chain to be able to scale fast. There's a company in India which we invested in last year called Zingbus. It's in the it's in the bus space. The bus space is exploding in India, and I don't mean that physically. But there's this company in Delhi, which had about 1,000 buses, all diesel. It was serving 3 million customers, basically moving people between Delhi and between what's called intercity, so between Delhi and Jaipur or other cities around the main cities in India. But the challenge is that there's a very long tail of bus owners across India, and many of them have between 5 and 20 buses, and to convince them to convert from diesel to electric is really, really hard. And so we've invested in this company. We've put $7 million in. We'll put more in over time. And so what we're doing as well is that we also we made our JV partner, Reliance and BP, which is a EV charging infrastructure player scaling in India. We said to them, look, let's use other people's money, not just the BP Ventures. Let's also use the JV's overheads. And now what they're doing now is that they are actually putting EV charging infrastructure into these bus stops to be able to ensure that actually this conversion can happen. So apart from just putting buses on the road, that's one thing. But getting the EV charging infrastructure landed on the ground as quickly as possible has helped this, or is helping this young company scale very fast. And for the scale, if anything, the scale of it, it's about 53,000 liters of diesel that you displace when you switch from a diesel bus to electric. that also equates to about 20 to 100 tons per annum in terms of CO2 saved. But that then turns around to becoming a big business for the corporation as well. So it's not just the starter benefits, the corporate can benefit. This is 1.2, 1.5 gigawatt hour power, which is available then per month to be flowing through. So everyone wins. But the idea is that you as a venture capitalist don't just think only around putting cash in, but how do you help that company scale faster using other people's balance sheets as well?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you make here. Finding the right incentive to fast track or help with customer adoption is definitely a point, which holds true generally, but in particular in the region as well, right? Coming to you, Dmitry, Aramco Venture is well known for investing in heavy decarbonization tech, right? Like carbon capture, hydrogen, ammonia fuels, etc. These solutions typically require more capital and patience than the conventional tech, right? How do you see the role of the CVC in the region, and what can you offer? What can Aramco Ventures offer that other investors cannot?
Yeah, it's a good question, but maybe first to introduce Aramco Ventures runs a corporate VC program of $7 billion. Roughly half of that goes to strategic venturing, which means we want to align our investments with the right business units within the organization. And it covers a range of various sectors within decarbonization and climate tech specifically, so including energy efficiency, renewables, CCS, as you mentioned, hydrogen, materials, metals, carbon markets, a lot of sectors here. And what we offer is essentially for global technologies an opportunity to deploy within Middle East. And specifically, we have deep technical expertise in-house, so it helps to provide really support along the journey of the startup as they grow and scale. Secondly, we provide opportunity to co-invest with our global co-investor partners across the world. So we've done over 100 investments over the last 10 years with major corporate and financial VCs out there. And then we offer deployment opportunities. So with Aramco itself, with mostly operations in Kingdom, then with our partners in the country as well. For example, our public investment fund, we have Neom, a big development, SABIC, big petrochemical company. But also internationally with a footprint in many countries in Asia as well. We also provide patient capital, as you say, from early stage seed to late stage venture, so from $500,000 tickets to up to $200 million. So for those companies which grow from our early stage fund, they can graduate to later stage, so we can really support them across the journey. And in addition, while the companies can graduate to that kind of late stage, we can offer opportunities to move their manufacturing base in Kingdom, so they can produce high value goods and services in country, which is developing and diversifying now very rapidly. And this comes with a set of commercial terms where we can facilitate, for example, long-term offtake agreements for specific services and goods that the company produces. And we can also bring our Kingdom partners to use the services as well with various incentive schemes in terms of capex, subsidies, taxes, etc.
Quick follow-up regarding regional applicability, right? Do you see Southeast Asia really like well positioned to scale and deploy those tech that you're interested into? Or you mentioned supply chains before, right? Like how do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, especially in the current economic and geopolitical realities, right? There is a strong connection between ASEAN and the Middle East, especially with investment potential in the Middle East region and the developmental requirements there. So I see a great need for those technologies which originate from ASEAN, from Singapore, to find deployment opportunities. Especially, it's quite difficult for startups with kind of Series B onwards to grow specifically in the one given country here. there are great development opportunities in the Middle East.
Okay, thank you for this perspective. Switching to you, Saemin, very simple question, right? Rakuten is known for tech investment. You know, I'm talking about AI, fintech, consumer app, but also invests in energy and sustainability. Why Rakuten cares about climate?
I think, to be very blunt, to care about climate is also to care about your bottom line, especially in 2025 and on. And when you think about what Rakuten is that it's a conglomeration of 60 to 70 subsidiaries. We basically look at what the upside is for these business units over the next 5 to 10 years. And my job in Rakuten Capital is looking at what will Rakuten's future look like in 20 to 30 years. So while we're a very dominant player of e-commerce and fintech and things like messaging platforms globally right now, we want to look at what's meaningful in the next 20 to 30 years. And going back to this whole idea about how do you look at renewables and sustainability, Southeast Asia is a really interesting place. I think I saw a report out of the 20 cities that have these, that are at risk of specific major environmental impacts. Southeast Asia hosts 15 of those cities, whether it's relations with land scarcity, things like water scarcity, or things in relation to rising seawaters, or even health-related issues because of microplastics and e-waste. I think a lot of the problems that you can see right now are amazing businesses to get into, especially for corporations, because these are really patient capital gains. It's not these investments that you do over the next 2 to 3, 4 years when a fund life ends. These are 10, 15-year bets that you make correctly, and then you try to actually induce the ecosystem to do well. And by doing well, it creates a wealth effect that everyone actually enjoys.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And maybe, you know, as an investor who has backed everything from e-commerce to aerospace, what do you concretely find different or similar about evaluating a climate tech startup from Southeast Asia?
Gotcha. That's a. I need more. I need a drink to to start. But the reason why 2025 and on is so special is that the idea behind sustainability and aerospace now, it's the most narrow as you can imagine, right? Because when you think about, like for example, laser communication and satellites in relation to things that look like AST Mobile and Starlink, you're talking about utilizing that, and when you proliferate that to a large-scaled extent, you don't have to dig hundreds and thousands of miles of ground anymore. You don't have to actually have massive negative economic impact to actually put dark fiber to the ground. So I think we're at a stage where technology has been able to be, the deployment has gotten to the stage where it's scalable, and the traditional option now is less economically desirable. Hence, everyone wins in that game.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Quick take from each of you, right? I think we have a great geographical coverage in this panel, right? If I look at Sophia between Europe and APAC, Middle East, Dmitry, Middle East and APAC as well, Saemin, Japan and APAC. How are people in your region very quickly, right, reacting to the recent wave of tariffs and trade tensions? You know, is it changing the way you think about sustainability and investment already, or everybody's on hold mode? Who wants to start?
So Liberation Day was what, April 2nd? I wonder if any Americans are in the room, what they think, if they feel liberated. I think we should watch what the Chinese premier is doing. He's crisscrossing the region, speaking to a lot of countries. So I think that's personally, I think it's a big mistake, but it's worrying. Because I know from our BP office, there's a lot of bunkering, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of ships on bunkering here, there's a lot of gunk, there's a lot of gunk right now in the seas, things aren't moving, and that's a real challenge for all of us who work in industry to keep commerce, to keep business flowing. But I mean, I'm still very, very encouraged. I think this is noise, awful noise, but it will clear up. My colleague here is from BP Ventures, Sonia, she's here. we do believe very much in this region, in what we're doing and how to scale and keep scaling. We've just invested, or we're about to announce an investment in a fund here, because we don't have the answers, but we believe very much Southeast Asia is part of what is going to drive positive change in the world, beyond the noise out of the US.
Thanks. That's good to hear as well. Dmitry?
I guess from my side, I would say it's really more about being cautious with investments. So be a bit more selective because nobody knows how long this cycle will go. But I think it also allows to really a bit more rethink what is closer to your strategy and making more kind of no regret moves. So look at it more like an option theory in a way. Where you don't commit too much going too far, but for those steps which kind of makes more sense in the near-term perspective.
I mean, I think on the general capital deployment side, especially on the commercials, we've seen very fast bifurcations. So topics and themes that that are not affected so much on the tariffs or even benefit from have received a lot more capital and a lot more attention these days. While as if you look at cyclicals such as D2C commerce, things such as fintech, you see a lot more cautiousness in the reign. Corporate venture capital wise, I think for me personally, I see that as a great investing opportunity because you're able to essentially invest in companies with less competition. Your views really haven't changed about how strong the companies are, but the actual, the marketability has weakened. And if you're looking at these companies on a 10 to 15 year lifespan, definitely we're able to actually talk to the founders much more meaningfully, and we view it as a much more positive sign when we are able to interact meaningfully. But again, then that means that we have to really work with the founders so that these tariff effects do not take over an overtly negative kind of psychological scheme for these guys, because they can really think about this in a negative sense and deter the productivity of the companies. So that real balance, I think, is the most important, especially if you're going to be a stakeholder in a company that you've invested in.
Yep.